we'll go ahead and get started. So I want to thank everybody for joining us. I'm Mike Morgan. I'm the board chair for APA-DC, and APA's mission is to advocate, educate, and elevate the professional photographic community. And just want to mention that advocacy for our industry is a really big part of what we do. And there's only a few trade organizations out there that are collectively fighting for the rights of photographers. So if you're not a member, I would strongly encourage you to join and support the industry that's supporting you. Just want to Katie, can we go to the next slide? Sorry. Talk about some of our upcoming events. So we've got an in-person event coming up on the 21st, happy hour in DC. That's going to be at Aslan Beer Company, and in spite of what the picture shows there, they do have tents up outside, so they'll be indoor and outdoor. So please come out and join us for that. Then on the 28th, last day of the month, we've got 30 minutes with Sean Hubbard. Sean is really amazing sports and advertising photographer, is a team photographer for the Ravens, and also shoots for Under Armour and Target and a number of other brands. So we'll be doing the 30 minutes with him. And then after that, we've started up our coffee breaks again. We're doing that monthly as well. We did the last one just a couple weeks ago, or well, I guess a week ago, and had a really great crowd. So please come out and join us. That's going to be March 25th, and that's at the National Portrait Gallery in the Kogard Courtyard. And we've got a theme this time. It's a photo book meetup, so people can just bring photo books, favorite photo books to discuss. And it's a great way to, meet members of the board, meet some of our other members. If you're not a member, if you have questions, you can bring anybody and enjoy a day at the museum. So please try to make it out for that. And then looking forward to April 1st, we're having our photo assistant workshop again. There'll be a 2-day event, but we'll definitely have on April 1st will be the in-person portion at York Studios again. And so please, if you've know somebody who's interested in assisting, if you're interested in assisting, somebody who should be an assistant, please send that to them and have them come and join us. And then we're also doing our annual field trip to the Glenstone Museum. We're going to be doing that on May 13th. So that's for members and with a +1. Tickets are free, and it's just an incredible museum. If you've never been there, it's not like any other museum experience that you've ever had. Really cool place. So please come out and join us. Couple things we don't have graphics for yet. I will mention also in April, we're going to have Art Stryber. We're still working out a date for that. So please join us for that. And then March 23rd, we're going to have 30 minutes with Hanale Lati. So please join us for those events. And you want to mention membership again. If you're not a member, here's some great reasons. Some of our member benefits, discounts, and all these different places that you can get them at. The benefits are fantastic. So I highly recommend taking advantage of that. If you are a member and you're not, take a look on the website, see where you might be able to save some money with your membership. And if you're interested in becoming a member, we do have a 20% or $20 off discount code that you can use, DC1 for 20. And you could also contact us with any questions, membership@apadc.com. Okay, and then with that, I'd like to introduce our speaker, Kate T. Parker. We're going to start out with her really telling us about herself. So, I'm just going to mention quickly that Kate's the New York Times bestselling author of a number of photo books. Strong as the New Pretty, of the first big book that she had, and that's led to fantastic career doing the advertising, commercial work, and a number of additional books, including one that is about to come out as well that she's going to tell us all about. So with that, we'll jump right in. So Kate, thanks so much for joining us. Really excited to have you here. Would love to kind of hear a little bit about the beginning of your career, how you got into photography, and how everything got started for you.
Oh, sure. Thank you. I just want to thank you, Mike, and thanks everybody for being here. It's so nice to like get to see everybody's faces, and I'm in a hotel. I have a shoot tomorrow, so which is always good. But yeah, I started, I think so I'll give you a little bit of my background. So basically, like, I shoot commercial photography, I shoot personal work, I direct as well. And so kind of, and if I could pick my favorite things to shoot, I would shoot kids and dogs. They're my favorite things to shoot. The things you're not supposed to want to shoot, but I like both of them. And but I started out, like my career started out, I was an editor, a video editor, and I worked at CNN, and then I moved to advertising and I was a producer. And then I have never like really taken a photo class, never done anything in photography, just was, like kind of making things, really try to make things compelling on a screen. And then I had my first daughter 17 years ago and decided, like, oh, I don't even know, like a week after she was born, I was like, oh, I'm going to be a photographer. I didn't have a camera. I didn't have I just was like, saw all these really amazing moments that I wanted to just capture, and I was like, well, maybe I could be a family photographer. So it's funny, I took a loan out from my family, from my husband, and I was, because I wanted it to be like super legit. I took a loan out, and I was like, bought my first camera and just started shooting all of the time. And I was like, I had my camera with me everywhere. I did like a 365 project. So I shot every single day, edited every day for a number of years, and would master one thing. And then I would be like, okay. And then then I'd move on to the next thing, whether it was, removing something in Photoshop or figuring out how to how to shoot, how to pan, or whatever the thing is. I would like research it on Photoshop or on YouTube, try to master it, and then move on to the next thing. So it was like pretty low pressure for a while. And then I basically, from that 365, I had noticed after a while, I had been shooting it. I had another daughter a couple years later. And then I noticed like the strongest images so my girls are and still are, we're not like, and we live in Atlanta, we live in the South, where a lot of family photography of little girls is everything is perfect, and their hair is perfect, and they're smiling, and that's not what my kids were like. And I didn't want to sort of like put them in that box. So I tried to celebrate more of like the emotions and the anger and the messiness and the bruised knees and the fighting and the muddiness, and like basically like really who they were. And eventually I took like maybe 20 of the strongest images, and I wasn't really like, because I was doing this all on my own. And I was an athlete. I played soccer at Wake. So I was like looking for feedback. So I'd be entering all these contests all the time. And one of the contests was that you could, if you got a picture in, it would be shown at a real gallery. So one of my pictures was actually at a real gallery, and the gallery owner saw it. And then I'll show y'all what the picture was. I can share my screen really quickly. I'll have to find it, but it's in here somewhere. But it's, are you all able to see the screen? Okay, so it was this image here, was the one that was selected to be part of this sort of like group sort of semi-professional show at the gallery. And the the gallery owner was like, do you have more images? I'd like to see them. And so I showed them more of the images, and he asked if I would want to do a show, which I was like, I've made it. This is it. I am, I thought this was like, so I printed all the images. I framed all the images. And if you guys have, I had all my college friends coming to town. There was an opening. I was just so excited. And then I was telling Mike this before, if I was at home, every single one of those 20 images is in my great room, because not a single image sold at the gallery. And I felt like, just like this huge failure. And I was like, do I quit this? Is this, and like the images were all, what eventually became Strong as New Pretty, the book. But it just took me redirecting. Like, I was like, maybe people don't want to have this in their home, but maybe they'd want to look at it as a story on, and this was a while ago. This was before Instagram. So I would sit down every single day, and because I was like, after I stopped feeling like a giant failure and sorry for myself, I decided to take action. And so I just basically like took a Dropbox of the images, wrote a paragraph about what the images were about, embedded a few images in an email, and then I sent it to like any place I could think that might want to run that story, because mostly because I was pissed that nobody bought anything. And so nobody responded. And I sent it everywhere. I sent it to the New York Times. I sent it to CNN, the Today Show, like any place that I thought was like interested in running a story about, celebrating girls for who they are. And then one place ran it, one blog ran it. It was this place called My Modern Metropolis, which they're super cool. I still love what they post. And from that, a bunch of all the places that had not responded to my emails at all before, like people slowly started to run it. And then the images sort of kind of like snowballed. And then from that, like it was on the Today Show, it was on CNN, it was on BuzzFeed. It was everywhere. And I remember like I had my Instagram page, and my Instagram was linked to a lot of the stuff. And my Instagram page at that point was like it was just like like it was, like there wasn't videos. It was just like me taking pictures of like my food and stuff. Like I wasn't using it as a business thing. So I remember sitting in my basement with my mom being like trying to backfill my Instagram with like work images. And then from that, I had an opportunity to actually make a book of the work. So from the attentions, a publisher reached out, and then an agent reached out. And then so I really thought that was a fun, like it made sense immediately to me. Like, oh, this is a way, like you can give this to a girl, you can give this to your friend. And so I can show y'all some of the images from the book. So like the images besides that one, they were all just like my girl, like it started with my girls. And then when we had the chance to make the book, I really wanted to expand it to all girls, basically like trying to showcase what girlhood looks like across the board. That strength looks different. We had girl hockey players, volleyball. I kind of went all over the country shooting different girls, doing the things that they felt passionate about, or just celebrating for who they are, and just trying to capture some of that joy. It's so funny. I haven't seen some of these images in so long. So this is just like a small sampling, and it was important. It's super important to me to have as much diversity as possible, like geographically, economically, and also in terms of interests, like what the girls' interests were. I really wanted to showcase that. So that's kind of how that project that project basically kind of jump-started my commercial career. A lot of, people would reach out and say, we would like you to do this project based on, Strong as New Pretty or things like that. So it was sort of an interesting time to just try and figure out how to, what were the things that I could do? What were the things that I felt passionate about? And also like for me, I hadn't done a ton of commercial work up to that point. I had done some that I was handling, that I handled it on the advertising side, but I had mostly shot stuff solo. So it was a transition to learn how to recreate this feeling of that something that's mostly naturally happening in a setting that you're manufacturing it. So that's kind of how all of that started with me.
Well, Caitlin, I'm curious about making the book and the transition to getting the book deal. Can you talk a little bit about what that was like when they approached you to do the book, and how maybe the project changed from that point? And I'd also have to know, like, what kind of input did they have? So, you started traveling around the country and photographing different things. Were these places that you wanted to go, or were you working with editors who were suggesting ideas for this?
Oh, those are all super good questions, because I didn't know any of that stuff, but I got an email from Random House, and they said, we'd like to do a book of this thing we saw on USA Today or whatever it was, and I was like, absolutely, I want to do that. And then literally like that afternoon, I got an email from a literary agent that said, I saw your work. My suggestion to you is, because I was like, I was like, I don't need an agent. I already heard from a publisher. Like, he just wants to take a percentage or something. I had no idea how anything worked. And he said he called me and we talked, and he had such a good point, because he said, well, what kind of book do you want to do? I think you need to figure out what kind of book you want to do before you say yes to a publisher. And so he's actually still my book agent today. And so he and I figured out I made a book proposal of what I would like to do, rather than having Random House or another publisher say, we want to do a book and we want it to look like this. So I put together a book proposal that was like 30 pages of what I wanted to do. And I really I wanted to go around the country. I wanted any girl picking up the book to feel that they could relate to a girl in the book, and that they could be inspired by her. And I wanted a mix of like very aspirational girls and girls that like an everyday girl that's just getting through. And so it turned out that the way it works is that he submits it to, I guess, a bunch of publishers, and then you see who's interested. And I think we ended up with maybe 8 publishers, and it goes to an auction, and then they interview you, you interview them. And it's just basically a job interview. And they'll say, well, what do you want to do with this book? And then I'll say, well, what do you want to do with this book? And then basically they keep canceling each other out as whatever the to go to the next round, there's a minimum of whatever the book advance would be. So it's money sort of eventually, and then I ended up with, I think, 3 publishers that were around the same. And I went with the one that I'm actually still with today, because I really loved, I went with Workman Publishing, because I really loved that they had they were everywhere. They weren't just at bookstores, because I didn't want the book to be a big fancy photo book that would cost $100. I wanted it really accessible, and I wanted it a gift book. I wanted girls and people, I wanted to be able to, because my book is still, it's at REI, or I saw it the other night at Aerie. So the publisher I went with is really, really good at finding non-traditional places for books to be. So that's kind of how that whole thing turned out. But it was a huge learning curve, learning how publishing worked, and then sort of what was the expectation for me. So basically you get an advance, and your advance basically covers it's supposed to go, it's payment for shooting the rest of the book. Cause I probably had 30% of the book done. And so the other 70% I would basically crowdsource my social media to try to find, and also like anytime I was on a shoot anywhere, I would, that because it's already paid for. So I would be like, okay, I'm going to tack on an extra day and I'm going to LA. So I'd like to shoot surfers and skaters. So I would try to find girls like that in LA. Or if I'm in Orlando now, I don't know what I would shoot in Orlando necessarily. I would just try to find interesting girls in Orlando. And I would just crowdsource, but I would also try to reach out to organizations like Boys and Girls Clubs and Girls in the Run, just because I didn't want the other girls that I found to be like, have to have some connection to me to be included. So like schools, and I wanted it to be sort of try to keep it as democratic as possible, because I feel like any girl would be amazing. They all have a story to tell and a story to share. So I didn't want it to be predicated on like that their mom followed me on Instagram or something like that.
Very interesting. And then I'm curious too. I mean, so you had a lot of these sort of, in addition to just wanting to be able to make this work, some altruistic goals and things. Did you feel like this book accomplished all of that? And or were there things that you felt like that you weren't able to get to that maybe you turned into future projects?
Oh yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like not necessarily for this book, but like, yeah, there's always like what the girls give me so basically, if you've not seen one of my books, it's a photo and then there's a quote, and it's usually like maybe 3 or 4 lines, and sometimes it's shorter, from each girl, and it says her name and her age. But there's usually like a huge story behind that. And I actually had my fourth book. Yes, sorry. My 4th book was called Play Like a Girl. It was all about soccer. It was a celebration of like of girls and women in that sport and the lessons you can learn from that sport. And I happened to shoot these amazing girls that were part of this program in Atlanta called Soccer in the Streets. And the girls, there's these 3 girls, and they were refugees from different countries in Africa. And that the stories that they had told me is that they would come to Atlanta, didn't really know the language, had never really played soccer before. And then they come and they learn the language, they make friends, and they and they learn how to play soccer through this program. And I had a few pictures in Play Like a Girl of these girls, but I was like, there's so much more here. There's such a larger story and a much more interesting story than just a few photos in a book. So I was like, I would really like to tell this story with like a mini documentary or something. Like, I just felt like I just kept pushing, and I was trying to get funding for a while. I did like everything else I do, I like Googled documentary treatment, and then I like basically filled one out. And then last March, I co-produced and co-directed a documentary for ESPN about these girls. Part of their like Title IX, they had the 50th anniversary of Title IX was last year, and ESPN commissioned 5 female filmmakers to make 5 movies about women and using their voices in sports. So I was super excited to get to like take that thing that I saw that was like, it was so like, I just felt like I didn't do it justice. And then to help sort of extrapolate and tell more of the story through video was really cool. Yeah. That was one of the things, but there's like, I feel like you could do that for so many of these girls. Like, I'm shooting this book now, and I met this all girls Boy Scout troop, which I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so interesting. I'm like, I really love, that's my favorite part of my job, is getting to like be like, learn about and be part of things that I would never ever have access to, and then try to help tell that story a little bit.
That's very cool. Where can we see the ESPN doc? Is it just is it available in the 30? Is it 30
yeah, you
30?
Can see it. It's on YouTube. It's called Home Field. The movie's called Home Field. It's 17 minutes long. But if you just Google ESPN Home Field, it should come up.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we'll see if we can.
It's on my website too. You can link off my website. Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. So I would like to kind of know a little bit about, this transition from, you put out the book, right? And then some of these commercial projects start to come in.
Right.
And can you talk a little bit about what that process was like, and
Mm.
maybe how you were able to choose the projects that maybe you wanted to take, and whether or not, I'm sure there were some projects that, I mean, since you had this vision for your book, and you're trying to do really good things with your photography, did you feel like that was something that also played into the choices you were making with the commercial projects that you were taking on?
For sure. I feel like all of it is like, there's just like different pillar or verticals or whatever, but like there's books and commercial photography and personal work, but it's all, for me, it's all kind of the same thing. And I'm trying, I guess it's, whenever I approach a commercial project, like I always am trying to like get some honesty in there, like, which is basically what I was trying to do with like Strong's New Pretty and my other books and my other personal work, is trying to show and shed some light on and make things real. And it's manufactured a lot of times in commercial work, but like I tend to get a lot of work that is real patients or real people, or we want to make this look as real as possible, which I love. And then I try to run my sets that way, where it's like actually giving actions to people, or talking to hair and makeup and saying like, let's make it not so perfect, trying, because I feel like that's what people respond to, is the honesty in imagery. And so as much as you can, within the confines, I always feel like with personal work, there's no box in the creativity, but with commercial work, you have a box and you can be as creative as you want within this box. And I feel like sometimes that's more challenging and more, it's sometimes more interesting, because there's this parameters where you have to make it work. You have to you have to hire that talent. I think all of the aspects are equally important. I mean, not to say that like I remember my first commercial job, I had done everything. I had actually gotten hired by somebody that I had worked with when I was in the advertising world. He had seen like portraits that I had done, or some of my kids' work that I had done. And it was for a hotel chain. And he was like, just do your thing. Just do your thing. And I was like, okay, I'll I was so nervous. I didn't know what a Digitech was. I didn't know how I was like, I thought I was going to have to like put together every single light, and I only knew how to do my lighting. And so I was like literally throwing up on the way in there. Like it was, but I still like, I was so thankful, because I knew the creative director, that he was just like, he like sort of gave me the power to be like, just do your thing. We want you to do your thing. And it was such a gift to be like, okay, I know how to do that. This light in this hotel room, we have kids here, there's a dog here, let's make this work. And it's just like kind of forgetting all of the sort of the circus behind me, and remembering like, what would you shoot if no one was here? And like trying to do that. And I still try to do that in like every shoot, be like, they hired you for something, try to do that thing that you know how to do. And we all know how to do that without even thinking, like the thing that makes us unique, and the thing that you love to shoot, like to try and remember always to try to get those images, because they generally end up being the best ones.
That's such a great way to describe all of that. And there was a question that was in the chat actually about, your work as a producer. Were you continuing to do that? Like, can you talk about the little bit of the overlap of that career and then this career?
Sure. Hey, Carla, thank you for coming. So I stopped working as a producer when I had my girls. I was home, and so they didn't really overlap, but that skill set definitely did. It was funny. One of my jobs also in when I was in advertising was to like scour Getty and Corbis for stock photography too, which is interesting. Like that was part of my job. And I remember being like, gosh, this is so expensive. These photographers must make so much money off these stock images. So that, yeah, they didn't really overlap, but I think the skill set for sure did.
Yeah. Well, and then so tell me, how did the next couple of projects come about? And then and we'd love to see some images from those as well. So maybe you can show
Oh,
some of those
sure.
while we talk
Yeah.
about it.
So the next book that I worked on after Strong as New Pretty was one called Heart of a Boy. And it was basically a very similar concept of like celebrating our girls for themselves, and this was celebrating our boys for exactly who they are. So celebrating some of the vulnerability and sort of, I would say, the softer side of boys a little bit. And so like this boy, like, so basically they have, quotes with them. This boy had a heart transplant, but was also like this motocross rider. Yeah, just, it was funny because I was initially like kind of reluctant. Sorry, my internet's not so great at this hotel. I was initially like a little reluctant to do the project, because I was like, I really didn't know that I don't have boys. I don't spend a ton of time like really around a lot of boys. And obviously a lot of my work revolves around girls and trying to empower girls. And I was just like, boys are fine. They don't need this. They don't need any, like, their voices are for sure heard. And then I just did a few test shoots, basic, because my publisher wanted this book. And I was like, yeah, I'll come back to you and we'll do a book about girls next. Okay. But I'll like pretend that I'm going to do these test shoots. And I actually did do the test shoots. And as soon as I started, shooting the boys, hearing their stories, like, honestly, like asking them questions, I was just like, it just immediately, my eyes opened and I was like, I feel like this is maybe needed more than the girls' book, because, like I said, the vulnerability and like the way that these boys would open up and share like the things they were interested in and the things that they aspired to, and sort of the blowback that they would get, if they were artists or if they cried or were sad. It was super interesting to me. And I was immediately like all in on doing it. I really, really loved that project, and was really proud of the book for sure. It's called Heart of a Boy. It came out, I forget, 2018, maybe 20. Yeah. It's kind of a blur.
And so that's really interesting that how you kind of changed your approach, as you went into that. And then did that in turn change your approach to other projects moving forward?
Well, it definitely made me like, what's super interesting to me is like, so I've been hired a lot of times commercially we saw Strong as New Pretty, we love that, we'd like something like that. I've never, ever been approached to do anything similar to Heart of a Boy, ever. I just think that conversation is not as far down the road. And that book, it's funny, that book did not sell as much as Strong as New Pretty. Because I still think we think of like, if you give a girl a book like Strong as New Pretty, it's a compliment. But if you give a boy a book like Heart of a Boy, it's like, it's okay. It's just an interesting, and I'm so thankful I made the book, but it also like, it taught me to reassess what I think, and like, like that I'm whatever things I'm holding, like my beliefs that I think are right. Like sometimes I have to catch myself and be like, really? Do we need to look at that again? Which I think is really good, especially like I'm not 20 years old anymore. So it's nice to like catch myself and reassess those things.
Yeah, well, society definitely has a long way to go still, I think, with that
Yeah.
stuff. So, and then another question from the chat actually, and as we're looking at the images, maybe think of this as well. Did you take any inspiration from Sally Mann? And were there other areas of inspiration or photographers who kind of informed your approach and your work?
For sure. Yeah. Sally Mann, I really adore her work. And when I first started, that was probably my, like, sort of my, like, guiding posts of like what I thought. I really loved her work. I thought it was really beautiful. And as I sort of grew and like started looking around and looking at other photographers, like I love Sig Harvey, Lauren Greenfield, huge fan of all their work. And also like, especially Lauren Greenfield, as she, she directs. So I don't know if you all know her. She does, she's a really very talented photographer, but also did the, that Like a Girl commercial. If anybody's ever seen that, where it's like, how do you run like a girl? And it's like the girls are kind of like making fun of themselves, like running like a girl is bad. I think it's for Always. But I love how she does it all. She does books, she does commercial work, she directs, and then she also does documentaries. So I'd never really seen a career that I was like, that I feel like it's hard to sort of encompass a lot of the things that I like to do. And I never seen anybody had done all of those things and does them really well. So it's nice to look at that and be like, oh, you can do that, and you can still shoot, and you can still do personal work. And so I just think it's super interesting how like I really admire her career, because most of her work is all really meaningful too. It's all trying to like to share a story that's maybe not told or not heard as well as others.
Yeah, and I'd also like to know a little bit about your process, and especially as you're mentioning some of these photographers, and thinking about the way that they work. I'd like to know a little bit about when you're working with these subjects, and how much you're trying to pull an emotion from them, or trying to connect with them, or how much is you just kind of back and observing.
For example, if I'm like scheduling a session with a kid so I'm working on my next book. It was called Roll When We Roar, but that's a mouthful and it's hard to say. So we've changed it to Force of Nature. And it's a celebration of girls and women using and raising their voices for good. So it's like, one of the things, like, so if I'm shooting a girl for that book or a woman for that book, I generally know why, like what is, say, trying to think of somebody I've recently shot. I shot, like I was saying, I shot a whole Boy Scouts troop of girls. So I was like, okay, let's shoot you at your meeting. I shot one of the girls at her home. And then I shot the rest of the girls at the Boy Scouts meeting. And I basically just like followed the meeting, and it was sort of more documentary style. So I was just seeing what they were doing, following them around, was there for the whole meeting, shot all of the meeting. But also like, I'm like, this is great, ladies. Can we move you towards this light over here by the window? Because this fluorescent sucks. So like I sort of like manage it a little bit, and then I will pull girls from what they're doing. And then I actually, like, this is the first time I've been doing this. So each girl I need to get a quote from. And I found that it's incredibly difficult to follow up with 300 and something kids to have them fill out a form. When I know I want the quote to be about this specific thing. I want to know what Boy Scouts means to you, and how do you use your voice in Boy Scouts? Why did you choose this? So I started recording on my phone the interviews, and then I do it through this app called Rev, and then they transcribe it to me. And it's been like a lifesaver. I love it so much. So then I just pull quotes from that. And then, so I'll pull the girls apart, out of the group, get their quotes, do a little mini interview. And then generally it's just like trying, I feel like I always have at least with personal work, because the kids are doing the things that they're passionate about, that they are really proud of, whether it's a sport, it's singing or art. I feel like there's this level of comfort that I don't have, that I like, it's kind of cheating. Like they want to show me these things, and I'm really interested in it. And they're proud of it. So it's like this great, I feel like I get the best part of these kids, because it's like, when you're doing the thing you love, it's like this, you shine a little bit. So I'm trying to capture that.
That's really awesome. So I'm wondering, I know you have got some images from
Oh,
the new book. Could we take a look at some of those? Can you
yes.
talk a little bit about some of them?
Yes, for sure. Hold on. Let me hold. Okay, so this is well, it's Roar because I haven't changed it yet. Hold on. Oh wait, hold on. Sorry. This you're seeing my. Oh, here we go. So these are some of the images from um Forces of Nature. We have lovely Billie Jean King. This is one of my all-time favorite images that for some reason has never been in a book so far. But I love this one. That's actually the girl in the back is my daughter. This one it's called Daughters of Anarchy, which is they're just going crazy in the neighborhood. And oh my gosh, this girl was actually, I came up to DC to shoot this girl specifically. So this girl, you can see she's a basketball player. Her story was so amazing. I'll share it really quickly. She, at 11 years old, went into, I forget what the store was, to look for these Elena Della Donna's basketball sneakers, who's a player in the WNBA. The clerk said, "Why would you want to watch women's sports? It's like watching paint dry." And it broke this girl's heart. So she went home, was really upset about it. Her mom said, "You should journal about this." She journaled about it. She showed the mom the journal. The mom said, "Do you mind if I share that? I think it's really powerful." It was shared in their like local newspaper, and basically like Dick's Sporting Goods got hold of it. And Dick's was not the initial store. I think I can't remember who it was, but it was Dick's redid how they market their women's sports gear based off this 11-year-old's op-ed that she wrote. So I just like, that's exactly the kind of thing that I was like, oh my gosh, you changed the world, with that. So this girl is the only female player on this is actually at my daughter's school, on the lacrosse team. This girl, she's amazing. She's part of a program called Brown Girls Do Ballet. So they advocate, like, I didn't know this, basically, until like she has to take pancake makeup to make her ballet shoes match her skin tone. And I don't know if I shot this like a year ago, so I don't know if they've changed, but she was not able to get brown ballet shoes and would have to do it. And she finally was able to get brown tights recently. So it's just an interesting way to advocate. So all these girls this was actually her sister who just happened to be there, who I was not scheduled to shoot, but I was like I said, every girl has a story. And I was like, you have such an energy. Can I just take your picture as well? You can see there's like shot on the same background. And so she's an actress, and that's how she uses her voice. So there's just like so many interesting girls and stories. And like this girl here, name is Sevi, and she is an artist. She has Down syndrome. She's an artist. She's nonverbal, but her art it's so beautiful, and sells for a lot of money online. And I think her mom sells it through a gallery. And so it's just these like so many interesting stories that you get to hear and capture and be a part of that are really very exciting. So yeah. Oh, these were the girls that I was talking about earlier that were part of the documentary. So this was stills from the documentary, which I will also use in my book. So that's some of the images from Force of Nature.
That's fantastic. Well, I wanted to ask him, is there, before we start wrapping up here, is there anything else that you'd like to share, or that you want us to know about you or your work?
I mean, I feel like I talked a lot about myself. No, I'm just really like, I feel like what we get to do is really lucky. And I like still can't believe it's like my job. And honestly, I feel like it's always like making it up as we go along. So I just feel like if someone had told me that, 10 years ago, that you're never like you never feel really sure about what you're doing, and then that's okay. I would have liked to hear that. So if anybody's, like imposter syndrome and all that kind of stuff, is like, it's fine. Like, just to trust the thing that you like to do, because that's what you're good at, and to lean into those things, the things that you're passionate about. It's kind of the same thing I try to tell my books, like whatever that little thing that makes you special, that keeps you up at night, like stick with that. Oh, somebody was asking if I am still looking for stories for Force of Nature.
Yes.
I would say, I mean, everything is due for me March 1st. So unless they're local to Atlanta, probably not. But but I am always looking for stories, and there's always going to be, well, I don't know that. I would always like to continually shoot books. So if there's an awesome story, I would love to hear it.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think, did anybody else have any questions before we wrap up for the evening? All right. Okay. Well, Kate, thank you very much for sharing your story, for sharing your beautiful work. And as a parent and as a parent of a daughter, was I don't know, your work really speaks to me, and just gosh, really makes me, I don't know, just makes me happy to about my kid. So so your work is really wonderful at capturing that. Oh, and well, okay, there is a question in the chat here that popped up. I think it's pretty good. What story about girls do you think still needs to be told? That's a great question.
Oh, I love that. It's funny that, like, my next book is about using your voice and raising your voice. And I really think that's important. I still struggle with it. Because I feel like so much, girls especially, are told, like, I don't know, I have two girls, and you worry about being liked or being ostracized or being included, and like not speaking up and saying the thing that needs to be said. I still don't do. So I feel like I'm like kind of making this from partly for myself, because and I'm like, well, if I need to hear this, other people need to hear this too. Like, just to, and also to recognize that it's not always a roar. The way you can just say, you can include somebody, you can come sit with us, or it's even just in a look. So it could be a whisper, but like, just remembering that we have agency, and we have choice, and we have power, and to use that when we can, especially as girls and women, and to not give it up because we're worried about losing a friend, or feeling unpopular, or like, because generally if you're thinking something, other people are thinking it too. So just like try and not worry about that as much, which I need to remind myself too.
Yeah, well, it's I know there's a great sense of empowerment, for these kids, and the fact that you let them speak and share their words and their thoughts, and wonderful projects. And yeah, and we're all very happy for your success that's come from it as well. So okay.
Thanks everybody for coming and taking time out of your busy schedule. That I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, thank you, and thank you again for joining us. Good luck on your photo shoot in Orlando there. And thank you again. We really appreciate having you. Thanks everybody for joining us. And yeah, we'll look forward to seeing you at another APA event soon. Okay.
Awesome.
All right.
Thanks,
Thanks
y'all.
everybody.